Hi everyone, this is Lincoln Ashley from Knitteratti Designs. Welcome back for those of you who've seen my first podcast, and for those of you who are just joining us, it's great to have you. So I guess we'll just hop straight in. We'll get rid of this. Okay, so for those of you who saw the last podcast, you saw that I was knitting on something, so it was actually this, which I've finished. So yeah, you can see it's just a very basic scarf. Still needs to be blocked. So I think it was 350 stitches. Added in a vickle braid, a few stripes. So I was actually doing this just to try out a few new techniques, and I think eventually it will become a pattern, but not in its current. You can see there I've done something a bit funky, not in its current form, but it'll make it out there at some point somehow. I have also completed some socks. I'm not actually a sock knitter. I think this is like the second pair of socks that I've ever knit, and you can see that I'm a bad knitter. I have not woven in my ends. But yeah, again, these need to be, sorry, that's one of my puppies. You can hear in the background there. I think she's seen a bird. So yeah, there's no pattern for these. I just kind of picked up the needles and went with it, just to see if I could do basically a pair of socks that would fit me really well. Now, I'm not actually a sock wearer so much, so so you can see the other side of the heel. Not brilliant there, but like I said, only my second pair ever and without a pattern. So yeah, these are supposed to be kind of almost a bed sock, I suppose. To be honest, I probably won't wear them, but they fit perfectly. That was kind of my goal with these, was to make a pair of socks that would fit me perfectly, and they do. So I did mention to somebody on Facebook during the week that I would do a little bit on tools. So for these, I used these tiny little circulars. So as you can see, they cost me €4. These are Knit Pros, and they're the 9-inch circulars. Now, I know some people feel that these are very small. To be honest, they take a little bit of getting used to, but they're not terrible. I have to hook my little finger in here when I'm using them. I don't know why, but it seems to help me. I can even do magic loop on these, which is fiddly. You need a lot of patience to do that. But, sorry, I'm out of focus there. There we go. But, oh, you can almost see me. Hey. But yeah, I'm one of those people who, I have one project with me when I'm out. I don't really want to have to bring a load of different needles. I actually started these on my London trip, so if any of you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my trip to London. And this is what I was working on. So I actually got most of a sock done that day, even though I had to keep pulling it out to try and get the toe just right, just so that I could get the right number of stitches. But yeah, granted, I'm not a sock knitter, but I find it handy for circular shawls or anything that's small that I just want to fit into a very small space in my handbag or anything like that. And I don't necessarily want the long cable of needles. Yeah, these are great. So in that vein, I'm currently using a set of 4mm, and I'm just starting out on a new shawl design. So this is circular, but it's not actually joined in the round, if that makes sense, because I want something that'll wrap around completely, but I want to knit it flat. So as you can see, there's nothing exciting going on at the moment, just a fair amount of fishnet. But yeah, I'm using the size 4s just for the moment to start out with this. Actually, the yarn, if anybody is interested, is Sublime Lace. which I actually got on sale. So I'm quite happy with that. I should stop saying so much. But yeah, I've kind of gotten ahead of myself a bit with saying that this is what's currently on the needles, but I wanted to show that I am using these for things that are not socks. So this is just a nice compact project at the moment that I can throw into my bag, and I don't need to worry that, I know I really should get some project bags, but I don't need to worry that the end of my circulars are going to get caught on something and pulled out, because there ain't no way that I'm getting all of those stitches back on without losing a load of work. So keeping with actually I'll go with these ones next, because when this grows a little bit more, I'm going to transfer the needles, and you can see they were €4 as well. I actually got these at the Knitting and Stitching show, so that's why there's no currency on them, because they were probably £4 as well. That was actually the Dublin show. I will be attending the Edinburgh show in April, and I actually hope that this guy is at that show as well, because there was a whole wall of needles and it was fantastic. Anything you needed, any type of needle at all, there it was. I went a bit mental, and I'm hoping to go a bit mental again. I'm sorry I didn't buy more that time. Anyhow, when I move this onto a larger circular, just because the number of stitches are going to increase, I'll use these. Now, I don't actually have the packaging for these. I believe I paid about €3, and these are from Tiger. You know those shops that kind of have a little bit of everything? They have some yarn. But if you take a look, they often have some needles, and the reason why I picked these up is because at €3, I don't really care if they get taken away from me if I go on a plane. It would be unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. My normal sets that I would normally use are interchangeables. I have been sticking with Knit Pro a lot, but I've recently branched out into Addies, which I also quite enjoy, so I may end up picking up a whole set of those. But I definitely prefer metal needles, and here's why. Now, let's see if you can see this. Try and get it nice and close. Let's see if I can focus. It isn't really. Okay, these tips, you can see it on the one down here. You see how they're getting quite blunt? I find that as I use any type of wooden needle, that the tips do end up going quite blunt, and they start to wear down. Now that's fine with a little cheap pair of needles from Tiger, but I also have a set of, what are they? You know the wooden needles from Knit Pro, the sock needles, the whole set, and they have all the pretty colours on them? I have a set of those, and when I knit my first pair of socks, I found that, yeah, look, you can see it quite clearly there, there's two completely different shapes on the tips. And that's just from it wearing down through use. And I was really upset when it happened to the whole set that I have, because it was actually a Christmas gift from the Enabler. And I'm a little bit, I don't want to say, what's the word? I can't even come up with the word that I don't want to say. Sentimental, that's it. I can be a little bit sentimental about gifts, and I kind of want to keep them nice. And these are, you know, when the tips start to wear down off them, I kind of feel like I'm ruining them, even though I'm not. I'm using them for what they're meant to be used for. But yeah, I felt really badly about it, so I rarely use them, just purely because of that. So for me, it's fine if it's a cheap needle. In fact, I've just spotted another one over here. This is another one from Tiger. It's one from their DPN sets, which again, they're not brilliant, but I don't care if I snap one. I don't care if it gets taken off me getting on a plane. I think again, for a set of 5 of these, it was probably €3. So I don't mind too much. With the circulars as well, the join is pretty sturdy. I haven't had a problem with it. The stitches move quite nicely over it. So yeah, if you're looking for a cheap needle and you understand that the tips are going to wear down, but I find it's the same with every wooden needle. I don't know if it's the way I knit or if everybody is having this issue, but these are probably worth the money. I mean, I have more than one pair of these and I really enjoy using them. So there you go. Now, any of you following me on Instagram may have seen a post yesterday about these needles. I know they're tiny, and when I saw them at the Knitting and Stitching show, I had to pick them up because I wanted to try knitting with 1mm needles. Now they should have been £8. I paid €8 for them. And again, they're Knit Pro carbons. And I had, you would have seen in the picture, a rather large cone of cobweb weight cashmere. So I'm just going to paste some of this out here. Actually, I should show you. Because I didn't want to bring the whole cone around with me, I've actually taken some of it off onto, we call them dead soldiers, the insert from a toilet roll. So again, just makes it much, much handier for me to stick in my bag. And I have made a project with this before, and you can spit splice it really easily. So if I do need to join in anymore, it's nice and handy. But yeah, here we go. Cobweb weight on 1mm needles. Now my biggest problem with doing this is that I'm knitting black on a black needle. I don't know if these come in any other colours, but I really, really dislike having, I mean, they look so pretty, but having needles that are in a colour. I have another set of Knit Pro, they're not carbons, but they're DPNs, and they're purple. And I have a project that I'm using those for, and that project has been stalled for months, for the simple reason that it's a lace project, I need to be able to see what I'm doing, and I can't properly see the stitches on the needle. So, although I love this fabric, I mean, it takes an age to knit, but I absolutely love it. So, yeah, you can see there when I pull it, where I've had to pick up a stitch. That's another thing. It is difficult to pick up a stitch in cobweb, because you just, again, with the needle, I can't actually see properly what I'm picking up, because when you pull a stitch up onto the needle, you just can't tell, is it one stitch, is it, have you picked up a whole load of material from the row below? But anyway, I have made a small, I don't know, would you even call it a shawl, just a square scarf, almost like something you'd use to tie your hair back in a convertible. I used to have a convertible, I don't anymore. But with the Irish weather, there was no point. I got like 3 days of use out of it. And the dogs used to love it. They used to love going through the McDonald's drive-through with the top down on the car. They used to have great fun there. But yeah, I can see myself making something out of this, because it's cashmere, it's 100% cashmere, and it's just so soft. I think it came from Colour Mart, but I got it quite a while ago, so I don't remember. But yeah, I only did a little bit on that, because then I was curious. Now, it's starting to look a little bit messy over here. Just leave that there for comparison. This is lace weight. Much, much easier to knit in this isn't actually dirty, it's just an off-white. It looks really dirty on camera. This is the same number of stitches, but you see how clearly you can see those versus this. So I can knit without looking, which is fine, but when you're working with such a fine gauge, like such a small needle and such thin yarn, you do really need to be aware of what you're doing. So if I show you that, I wonder will it focus? Oh, you might be able to hear the wind and rain there. It has started to lash. Okay, this doesn't really want to focus for me. There we go. So you can see the tip. There isn't really much of one. I mean, it is there, but they can't really make it much thinner. It's 1mm. It'd go through your finger if it was, like, they are quite sharp, so it would go through your finger if it was any thinner. But it does just make it that little bit more difficult to get the needle into the stitch, because compared to the rest of the needle, it feels blunt, if that makes sense. You know, if you have a 4mm needle, there's quite a bit of material that you can taper down into a point, but when it's 1mm, you really can't. I mean, I would imagine, I know these are very strong needles, you can see they bend quite nicely and they come back. But I would imagine that if it was much thinner, that they would start to snap off, and like I said, they will go through your finger. It would actually be quite dangerous. But it just means that when you're knitting with them, you do need to pay more attention than you might if you were knitting with even 3mm or whatever. Okay, so I'll just clean away a little bit of this mess here. I'll just wrap some of this up. And while I'm at it, I was on Facebook during the week. You'll find me all the time on Facebook. And search for Knitteratti Designs to find my page. And there was a question about hand cream and what people use. So this is what I use. I buy it in the pound shop. So there we go. As you can see, I don't use it enough, but I have 2 dogs, as I've already mentioned. They're quite large and they're raw fed. So that means that we are constantly defrosting meat for them, different kinds of meat, tripe, things like that, which is fine, but it means that you end up washing your hands a lot. Because, for example, when I come down in the morning, my sink is full of the blood from the defrosting and things like that, so I have to clean that, and then I feed them and I have to wash my hands again, and then you get the idea. There is a lot of hand washing. So I love this stuff. I buy it in deals. So it's $1.49, because pretty much everything in deals is $1.49 or $1.50. When I put it on, it soaks in really quickly, which I love. This is my big problem with hand cream. You put it on and then you can't knit because it's soaking into the yarn. You get that kind of horrible feeling on your hands, and yeah, not going to happen. So this stuff, I put it on. Now when I put it on, I don't put it on like that. I just put a little bit, onto the back of my hand. And then I start by rubbing like that. And then I'll rub it in. And I find that when I do it that way, the palms of my hands don't get too much on them. Oops. And then it soaks in pretty much instantly and I'm ready to go. So I would recommend this to anybody who's in deals and wants to try something. They actually do a full range of hair products and stuff as well, which I think are quite good, but if you saw my hair, it might make you run. So yeah, there we go. So we'll bring this back so that you've something to look at. So I mentioned last week that, I might as well start doing a little bit of knitting, that I was going to cast on a very simple hat that you could all join in with if you liked. So I've decided that I'm going to do that next week. So sorry, I'm just working out which row I'm on. Just a knit row. So slip the first stitch. There we go. So yeah, I'm hoping to start that next week. So anybody who wants to work along with me, I would recommend, if you're going out to buy yarn, buy some DK weight and 4mm needles maybe. If you already have a stash that you want to work from, just pick whatever you fancy. The instructions are going to be such that it's more of a recipe than anything. So you'll be able to work out yourself what kind of fabric you like. So from that you'll work out the needle size. The number of stitches and rows is going to be up to you. I will explain it all at the time. Oops. Yeah, there we go. That was lucky. So, yeah, definitely whatever you have, worsted, yarn, technically you could do it in lace weight with a really small needle if you wanted. So you could use your cowboy weight and your 1mm. It'll take you forever, but you could. So I reckon I will probably be working with either DK or worsted weight. And I will give you more details of how to do your cast on next week. So we'll be starting right at the beginning. Next week I will give you details on how to do the brim. The following week I'll show you how to finish that off and how to pick up your stitches for the actual hat part, the crown I suppose. And then the week after we can cover the decreases and the binding off. And to go along with that, I do actually have a Ravelry group. So if you go over to Ravelry and search in the groups for Knitteratti, there are tumbleweeds over there at the moment. There's hardly anyone, but I'd really love to see your progress. So if anybody there wants to put in any progress pictures, what they're doing, that'd be fantastic. If you're having any difficulty or any questions, I'll be there, so you can ask away, whatever you fancy. So hopefully we'll get a few people. I mean, this is really for beginners. More experienced knitters will know a lot of this stuff, or, well, I mean, they may not have done this particular shape before. But you know what? I'm not excluding anybody. Anyone who wants to knit along, that's fantastic. The stitches we'll be using are knit and purl. There will of course be decreasing in that, but I will show you how to do that, so don't be intimidated. There's no need at all. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you all over there. So I think that's it for now. If anybody has any questions, by all means contact me. So you can add a comment at the end of this video, which would be great. Like I said, you can find me on Ravelry in the Knitteratti forum, or sorry, the Knitteratti group. You can find me on Facebook as Knitteratti Designs. You can find me on Instagram as Knitteratti Designs. I'm also on Etsy and Craftsy if any of you do want to check out some of my patterns. So yeah, that's it. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time out, because I know we're all busy, but it's fantastic to to be part of the community. I suppose that's really what I'm trying to create here, is a community space where we can all be involved. So yeah, I will hopefully see you next week, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care. Bye.